I'm back! Long time no talk. I have just one update regarding my blog and my channel. I deleted my blog. So I deleted my blog and I created a new one, but this one is mainly focused on my writing. So if you're interested in writing and if you want to talk to me about writing and all that good stuff, follow me over there. I will leave the link to it down below, which means that all of my book reviews will be on this channel or on Goodreads. I want to try and be more active on Goodreads, so if you're interested in seeing my thoughts on books more regularly, follow me on there. But anyway, let's just get into the book haul. Start with the books that I haven't read and move to the ones that I have. The first one I have on this pile is one that I got from my brother, and it's Black Harvest by Anne Pilling. I heard about this book from Sana's spooky book recommendation that she did with Lex, and this apparently is a ghost story, but it's also a story about the potato famine in Ireland that happened in like the 1800s or something. The next book that my brother got me is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. I've heard nothing but great things about this book. It's a generational type story, it's magic realism, and I read a little bit of a sample and I really like the narration style, so I'm super excited to pick this one up. The third book that I got from him for my birthday is Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. First of all, this cover is stunning. Again, I've heard nothing but great things about this book since before I even made videos on YouTube. I know that it has great mental health rep. It's about this girl that has OCD, but she tries to hide it from her friends, and she joins like a poetry club or something. And there's some spoken word poetry elements in this book, and that's truly what drew me into this book. Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I had just recently read another book by this author and I really liked his writing style. It's about this woman and these kids who are trapped inside this house and they have to try and escape, but there's this creature outside that kills them as soon as you set your eyes on them, so they have to try and escape blindfolded, which is why I absolutely love this cover, because I think it adds to the spooky factor of it. The next book I'm actually in the middle of, and that is Before We Were Strangers. This is an adult romance book. It's about this guy that sees his longtime college girlfriend for the first time in 10 years and tries to kind of get in touch with her again, I think. I'm not that far in, so I'm not really sure where the story's going, but it kind of cuts back and forth in time from the time when they were in university and 10 years later. And the last book I have on this unread pile is Unravel Me by Tahira Murphy. And now we move on to the books that I have read. The Summoning by Kelly Armstrong. This is a paranormal YA book about this girl who is put in this house because people tell her that she's schizophrenic, but it turns out that she is actually a necromancer, and this house is filled with other kids with supernatural abilities such as werewolf, witches, and all that. It's a really fun read. It reminds me a lot of The Darkest Minds. It's a trilogy. It's really fast paced if you're just in the mood for some paranormal fun. The next one I have here took some convincing to buy, and it's Almost Midnight by Rainbow Rowell. Now the reason I was super hesitant to pick this one up is because I already read the 2 short stories that are in this in other collections, but I just couldn't pass off this beautiful edition. The next 2 I have are fairy tale retellings, and that is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It is such a great Beauty and the Beast retelling because it reminds me more of Hades and Persephone. Absolutely love it. I've read quite a few Beauty and the Beast retellings in the past, and I think this one's the best, so highly recommend this book. And the next one by the same author is Crimson Bound. They're not in a series or anything, so I don't know why the covers are very similar, but this is a Red Riding Hood retelling, and I didn't like this one quite as much. I still really love her writing style. I think she does a great job with fairy tale retellings, but this one is more high fantasy and it's more plot driven than Cruel Beauty. Cruel Beauty is more like character driven, and I like that. But this one is this girl who's kind of a soldier of some kind to the king, and she has to protect the prince. If you're into political intrigue, if you're into a lot of action and battle, you might like this one. The next one I have on the pile is A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. This is about two teenagers who go on their first date to a picnic at the lake, and when they're there they see a gigantic house at the bottom of this lake, and they decide to go diving and explore this place, and they become super obsessed with it. It's got this like really cool magic realism element to it, and it's a lot more than a spooky, creepy horror book. The next two books that I bought are poetry collections. No Matter the Wreckage by Sarah Kay. She's one of my favorite spoken word poets. However, I didn't like this collection quite as much as I anticipated. I think I just had super high hopes. There are several great poems in this, but it wasn't as great as I thought it would be. The next poetry collection that I ended up really loving is Sea of Strangers by Lang Leave. Now this is a funny story because I had tried reading a couple of her poetry collections in the past and I didn't like them, so I was going to write her off, but I really liked this cover and I decided to take a chance and pick it up, and ended up loving this one. I think this one spoke to me the most. There are so many annotations that I made, so many tabs. Just love, love, love this collection. Also, this cover is beautiful. The Devouring by Simon Holt. This is a middle grade horror story. It actually reminds me a lot of that R.L. Stine story that was adapted into a Disney movie with that girl from Hannah Montana. I can't remember what the movie's called, but this is basically about this girl who tells this scary story about these monsters that come into children's bodies to her little brother, and it ended up happening to her little brother, and it's about that adventure. It's a lot of fun, you know, middle grade spooky stuff. We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. I think you are tired of me talking about this book. I did a review, I did a spoiler-free and spoiler review, I did a Goodreads review. It's great fun. I highly recommend it. It's about this guy that's going through a rough time in his life. He's being severely bullied both emotionally and physically at school. He feels neglected at home. His boyfriend just committed suicide, so he's dealing with grief, and on top of all of that, he keeps getting abducted by aliens who tell him to either save the world or watch it blow up into flames. It's a lot about his character. It's not so much about the sci-fi element. It's just great discussions on grief and depression and mental health. The next book I have is one of my attempts at reading adult literary fiction. I hate saying literary fiction, but it's just general fiction. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. This is more of a character study about this girl named Eleanor. She has everything planned out in her life. She has a 9-to-5 job. She talks to her mother on Wednesdays, and on Fridays she treats herself by buying a margarita pizza, a bottle of wine, and 2 bottles of vodka, and she basically just drinks the whole weekend until Monday, where she gets up and she goes to work and does the whole thing all over again. But then one day she makes friends with a co-worker, and as they're walking down the street they spot this old man falling on the side of the road, and they help him, and the three of them become friends. And it's a lot about loneliness and depression and abuse and trauma, and it's just so great. If you're looking to get more into adult fiction, I think this is a great place to start, because it reads more like a young adult, because the main character is only like in her late 20s or early 30s, I think, but it reads like YA, if that makes sense. Okay, just a couple more. I have The Immortal Rules by Julie Kagawa. This is a post-apocalyptic dystopian vampire story with a lot of action. It reminds me a lot of The Hunger Games in the rebellion type sense, but with vampires. So if you're into a lot of action, the vampires are super dark. I highly recommend this one, and also it has an Asian main character, even though you don't see it in the cover because she's not Asian. Shadow Me by Tahereh Mafi. And the last two books that I have to haul are my Casey West books. So I have The Fill-In Boyfriend. I didn't like this one quite as much, but this is basically about this girl who gets dumped by her boyfriend right outside her school dance, and she freaks out because she doesn't want to go in there alone because her friends will think that she lied about her boyfriend. So she gets this guy that she meets randomly to be her fake boyfriend, and then the guy also pretends that she is his fake girlfriend to make someone jealous, and it's a romance, so you all know where it's gonna go. It's cute, it's Casey West. And the second Casey West book I have is The Distance Between Us. This is about this girl who owns a doll store with her mother. They're really poor, and you know, they're having trouble paying their bills and all that stuff, and then one day she meets a rich guy, and it's about them seeing, you know, how the other half lives and all that stuff. There's also a romance, obviously, and I anticipated to not like this, but I ended up really enjoying it. This is definitely my second favorite Casey West book that I've read so far. Anyway, those are the books that I have accumulated over the past 2 or 3 months. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any of them. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon.